to heat up your frozen dinners, grab your TV tray, and settle in for another episode of the Plus Platoon, your podcast for all things Disney Plus, brought to you by Disney Plus fans. Watch along with us every week as we cover all the new, the old, the good, and the bad on Disney Plus. So put down that remote, don't touch that dial, and welcome your fabulous Plus Platoon host.
Welcome, everyone. I'm Derek, and I'm one of the members of the Plus Platoon. We're a Disney Plus fan podcast that gives honest, spoiler-filled reviews of movies and shows on Disney Plus. We'll look at new releases, coming attractions, and we'll even go back into the vault to revisit some of the classic Disney that's on the platform. Make sure you're subscribed, and you will never miss a moment. I'm going to bring in my girl, Kate. Kate, how you doing this evening?
Oh, I'm so good, Derek. How are you?
Doing very, very well. Doing very well for a Tuesday in April as a teacher. So
I feel that on a spiritual level, and I'm not even a teacher. So, but I feel that.
Who didn't just have spring break.
Right. Oh, right.
And also with us tonight, we've got Pete. Pete, how you doing?
Hey, everybody. I'm doing really good.
Good.
Or well.
Yeah, you're doing
really well.
Yes. And we've got a couple of guests with us tonight. One of them will be coming on from the Moon Knight section. One of them will be coming on for our Diamond in the Rough, which is Car S.O.S.a. And we got Steve with us tonight. But before we do that, Kate, we've got some Disney Plus news to talk about this week.
We sure do have some Disney Plus news. All right, everybody, in the world of the Disney Plus, what do we have going on? I'm about to tell you. First off, Dancing with the Stars is moving from ABC to Disney Plus for the next season. This will be the first Disney Plus show that will be consistently be streamed live on the service, which is very exciting. Next up, Sneakerella has released a new trailer. The show, being released May 13th, follows a wannabe shoe designer as the Cinderella character who meets up with the daughter of a shoe. Is that magnate?
Yes.
Is that how I say that? Magnate.
If you've seen the trailer,
y'all, because we need another Cinderella movie.
Right. I was going to say it's like a wannabe shoe designer in a wannabe Cinderella ripoff.
Yeah. Well, I have thoughts, but I'll keep them to myself for now. Next up, Disney announced that Walker Scobell will be the title character of the upcoming Percy Jackson series. Scobell recently appeared in The Adam Project, which was a dope movie, by the way. And apparently The Adam Project was his first ever acting anything. Wasn't really formally trained, nothing. And he killed it. He did so good. So I am glad to see that he is doing this role. Then Justin Bartha will reprise the role as Riley Poole in the upcoming National Treasure series. The Mandalorian.
I was going to say on that one, can we just do no Nicolas Cage cameos, please?
Oh, I so much want a Nicolas Cage cameo as that he's turned into this totally crazy old man with springs on the wall and everything. Well, no, Nicolas Cage is, but I'm saying the character.
Oh, okay,
has gone full nutso, and just one scene. I don't.
That's
small
fair.
Dose.
I feel that. And next up, The Mandalorian Season 3 wrapped shooting in late March. And star Giancarlo Esposito thinks that it will be released soon, sometime this summer. So that's exciting. And last, but certainly not least, on a rather sad note, probably one of the most recognizable voices in Hollywood, Gilbert Gottfried, who voiced Iago in the animated movie Aladdin, has passed away today after fighting a long illness at the age of 67.
Yeah.
Such a bummer.
Although
that's a sad one.
If he's been sick for a long time, at some point it almost becomes a blessing. But feel bad for his family, and that's one of those voices. When he was also the original Aflac Duck.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
I don't think I knew that. Oh, I like that.
Yeah. So, and as Ryan says, no sneaks. Don't need that in my life. I hear you, Ryan. I
very seriously doubt we're doing that one.
I would strongly doubt we're doing that one. Although, based on that time period, we'll see what else we got going on. So, Kate?
Well, I was just going to say, because I've been on Disney Plus watching a lot, especially with everything that we've got going on right now. And, and of course, now that I'm in the moment, I'm not going to be able to think of the name of it. There's one show that we have talked about, but we have not watched. I'll figure it out, and I'll bring it up later.
Okay,
I'll figure it out.
Cool. Awesome. Well, this week, we are going to start with, we had Moon Knight Season 2. And back from last week, we have got our resident Marvel comic book expert, Micah. Micah, how's it going this evening?
Oh, not too bad. It's good to be back with you guys.
Yeah. Had a lot of fun last week and had a lot of people ask for you to come back this week. So definitely, looking, having you here. So our first question this week, and
you can't replace me though, Micah.
No.
Don't plan on it.
No. But Pete, I'm going to start with you. After episode 2, is this still a show worthy of the Egyptian gods? Because we all liked it last week. Thoughts?
I would say yes. I didn't think the episode was quite as strong as the first episode. It felt like a little bit of treading water, kind of. Yeah, we had to find out more of what was going on, and it just kind of like it was. The first episode was like really like, oh, what is going on? I don't really understand it, and then this episode really spelled it out for you. And so in some ways, I guess that's good for most fans, but I did find it a little slower. But I guess it's good that they explained it. A lot of the things I liked about it continued, though. I liked that it focused on the Steven character. I still think he's a very good introduction into this world. And I do like, again, I talked about this last week. I like that there's a plot. Like Marvel shows lately, most of the Marvel shows, it seems like you got the A plot and the B plot and the C plot and the D plot, and then there's another hidden villain and all this stuff. And this show doesn't have that. It's got, so far, it's got one side and another side, and we don't really know, at this point, kind of don't know which side's the good side and the bad side, but I think we can figure it out. But I liked that. I liked that part of it, and I did really enjoy. I love the use of reflections in the show, and not just when he's talking to himself, but just how often they use reflections in different things and everything like that. So overall, I'm still think this is worthy of the gods. What about you, Micah?
I think it's been interesting how they've brought in a little bit more of the gods this time, and we get to see how powerful they are and how not they are. And this, I loved the line of, you don't need to listen to him. You don't need to do what the god says, even though he's kicking cans around and all sorts of other things. Nobody can see it.
Yeah. Actually, that was kind of like, well, he's really not that powerful. He without you, he can't. Yeah.
I also think it's interesting to see how the gods use people, and now we've got some of the people upset, and we learned a lot more about the avatars. Also, along with that, the finding out that Aro, I can't remember how to say his name.
Yeah,
the bad guy. He was originally the first, the avatar of Khonshu beforehand.
Was he though?
Well, for Khonshu, yes.
Was he actually, or is he just saying that?
Ooh, I don't know. He is not in the comics. He's not a character from the comics. He's a compilation of several people. So I don't know on that. I would say the bigger was he. I don't know if you caught in the first episode. It talked about. Oh, and I have problems with the gods' names. The alligator woman that the other guy serves.
Emmett.
Yes.
Emmett.
It talked about her first avatar rebelled against her, and it almost in this episode it set up Aro as the avatar, but I think he's not the first one. So I'm curious to see if we see that come back in later on. But But I think it's going to be fun seeing some of the showdown between some of the gods, and I hope we get to see that in the next episode.
Okay. Look, it's starting to lose me, to be perfectly honest. It has gotten very Marvel-y very fast. I liked episode 1 that it was not super Marvel-y. All of a sudden, it's turned into the super action, super angsty fighting that's like a lot of the other Marvel shows. Now, were there moments of laughter? Absolutely. The line about him wanting to have the ceremonial armor for Khonshu's temple, not Psycho Colonel Sanders, absolutely made me laugh out loud. That and the, I'm going to die in an evil magician's man cave. Those 2 lines were so funny. Now, remember last week I referred to the amulet as the beetle for the Cave of Wonders. I'm really close. I'm sorry. It going to Ahmed's tomb, it's the same thing. When Khonshu said, "You were nothing more than a corpse when I found you." What, Marc was dead, or is still dead. So, I will say having to save the girl so she's not the next Avatar feels incredibly forced. Feels incredibly, really, that's why you're protecting the girl so she doesn't become the next Avatar? Seriously? I will also say I've got an issue with, on a kind of a little bit of a side note, Marvel releasing multiple trailers each week that have footage from like 2 or 3 episodes down the road is an issue for me. I know the viewership numbers for episode 1 were 1.8 million in the first 5 days, which was the same as Falcon and Winter Soldier. They haven't released episode numbers for episode 2, but I'm got a feeling it's not as strong. They're trying to pull in footage for future scenes to try and keep people interested instead of letting the story support itself. I did not like Loki season 1, and that's no surprise. But the story supported itself. You didn't have to have these big battle scenes brought in, or him in the psych ward all of a sudden coming out of a room, which that goes into a potential spoiler that I've seen. And if it goes that direction, guys, I'm out. Because if it goes the direction that the spoiler I have seen goes, it will not only jump the shark, it will jump the lake, the tank, and the entire city that the shark is in. So I will say,
and the whole Sharknado.
Yeah. One neat Easter egg is if you paused it and scanned the QR code on the locker.
Yes.
Which I actually did. They go to a digital copy of the Werewolf by Night where Moon Knight first appears. And the other QR codes in the thing also go to that same thing. So that was a really cool little Easter egg.
Well, but also with those numbers, it's so the locker number was the number of the episode. The comic.
The comic issue. Yeah, the issue. So, Kate, now we didn't have you with us last week. So, thoughts of episode 1 into episode 2?
Yeah. So I'm really bummed. Unfortunately, my life has been very, very chaotic the last couple of weeks because of work. So I wasn't even able to catch up and listen to the episode from last week to hear what all was discussed. So I have watched 1 and 2. So here is my thoughts. I like it way more than I was expecting to like it. The trailer in my opinion, presented it as very, 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 very dark. And it was not near. I think I expected it to be very, very sinister and dark and to the point where I wouldn't like it. And it wasn't. It wasn't quite as dark as I expected it to be. That being said, so I enjoyed that. It did have a little bit more comedy than I was expecting. There were parts of it that I found myself actually chuckling to, which I was not expecting. Like especially in episode 2 when he goes, suit, pops out in this like dope ass tux, like looking so good.
Which is actually the Mr. Knight character.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so, that's when Steven summons the suit.
and that is a huge departure from the comics, because that is, not how that character is at all in the comics. And that scene actually reminded me a lot of, if you've watched The Mask. I was like, oh wow, Marvel has now grabbed The Mask and thrown that into one of their shows. And the fight scene there with him, the way he danced around and everything, I was like, wow, they watched The Mask before they made this. And that is a total departure from how it's been in the comics. And actually, the first time I watched it, I was so disappointed with that.
Okay.
And I watched it again, and I was like, well, they get some laughs with it, but still, I really would have loved to see them stay a little bit truer to the comics with it.
So go ahead, Kate.
And Kate.
Okay. So all of that to be said, I am struggling right now with who's the good guy and who's the bad guy. Like, I am having a hard time. And again, I didn't hear what you all said last week. So this is my opinion coming from not really knowing anything about Moon Knight. Mike, I don't know if you've heard or not. My boyfriend and I are watching through all of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, complete with television shows, in chronological order from beginning to end. So we are currently in the middle of the Defenders, which is great. Well, it's not the best, but anyway, so Moon Knight, we hadn't gotten to Moon Knight yet. So this is, anyway, I'm just struggling with who's the good guy, who's the bad guy, who, I don't know who to trust.
Definition of good and bad?
Like, I don't trust Mark.
Yeah.
Right. Oh. And I'm a little bit confused on, like, okay, so the person, the body that is either the Steven guy or the Mark guy.
Oh.
Who then so I have a lot of questions that I don't know if I'm supposed to know the answer. I'm a little bit confused, Kate, but not confused Kate in, like,
right.
Go ahead.
So Steven and Mark are the same person. It's like a split personality.
Is he schizophrenic
thing. Yes.
Multiple.
Oh, so it is
multiple personality.
Yes.
It is okay. Oh, okay.
And it's who takes control.
No, if like.
Yeah, it's who takes control.
So in that first episode, we were only seeing the Steven character's part.
We
weren't right, Steven's side. And then in the second episode, they started being able to communicate with each other. And then towards the end, though this was mostly Steven also until the very end. That Mark took over, but we saw more of the Mark personality talking to Steven. So
because I know we're about to talk. I know we're about to bring up which we prefer, but all in all, my vote is still out.
Okay, that's fair.
But we'll see.
It's very fair. Ryan says he loves Oscar Isaac. Think he's doing an excellent job making us care about multiple personas. Yes, as Steve, as I said, the flying snitch scarab, definitely. Nick says some great one-liners. Him holding on to her like an Elizabethan countess on the bike. Don't hold on. Yeah. And Ryan said basically multiple personality disorder. Yes, now it's known as dissociative identity disorder, in the fact that the personalities don't really know, for the most part, don't know about each other. So that's the new term, but yes, it's the old multiple personality disorder. Speaking of multiple personalities, Micah, I'm going to start with you. And we asked this question last week, and I want to see if your answer has changed. Do you want to see more Steven or more Mark?
Well, I can tell you what I think is going to happen. I think this next episode, we're going to see a lot more of the Mark character, and I think they're going to try to sell it so that we like Mark a little bit more and get to see his personality a bit. I still am waiting to see how they bring in the Jake character, the Drake. I was really looking forward to the Mr. Knight, and I got to say I was disappointed with that. Yeah, I think my answer is still, I'm really curious to see how they do it. I really think that they're going to work with the Mark character for this episode that drops tonight. So episode 3. So I think we're going to see a lot more of him.
Okay.
So I don't know if that really changes my answer. I'm still curious to see how they bring in the other personas.
Okay. I know for me, I think it's still Steven, but the bumbling character is getting a little old. I can see at the end of this morphing into something more like the comics where he can actually control the different personalities and knows which personality he's using when. I did like he has a great line. I think it should take more meaning as the series goes on. When he's talking to the guy at the museum, he says, "I'm not broken. I just need a little help."
Yeah.
And that's also a great phrase for normal people also is, I'm not broken. I just need a little help. Now going back to when he was following, did you notice that when he tried to land the Marvel pose?
Yeah.
And he fell over.
He stumbled forward and couldn't quite nail it.
Yeah.
So he didn't quite get it there. Marc to me seems like almost every other Marvel character we've ever seen so far. I'm going to need to keep seeing Steven to stay hooked. However, I've got a curveball to throw into this conversation. Okay. In Cairo, is that character Jake the third personality? Because would Marc really be sitting around drinking and smashing the mirror?
Yes.
Would, because we know Steven wouldn't.
You're going to confuse Kate even more.
Yes, I am. And if Marc is married and Steven doesn't have a clue, who made the date with the lady at the museum? I think it's got to be the Jake character. And who ordered this? Who wants the steak? It's Jake. Who tried to replace
Wait. Hang on. Hang on.
There's a third personality that will come out, and it will be Jake.
Am I supposed to already know? Did they say this in the show?
Well,
okay, I was about to go.
You would have known, but
you can get a hint in a lot of the times when they show him. They
mirror.
Actually show 3 pictures of him, and in the end credits, it shows his head with the 3 faces. There's actually in the comics 4 phases, like 4 phases of the moon. But they've sort of taken one of those, the Mr. Knight character, and put it together with Steven. So I think we're just going to see 3, which doesn't work for 3 phases of the moon. There are still 4.
There's still 4 phases of the moon.
Right. So somehow Marvel dropped one.
So, Kate, didn't mean to confuse you more, but yes, I think Jake...
Did you see the utter confusion come over my face?
we saw confused Kate all of a sudden show up and go, wait, huh, Jake, huh?
Wait.
This is why... people, you have to listen to every show, because if you had listened to last week, no,
I tried.
But anyway, I think Jake shows up in this next episode, because I think it may be Jake sitting there in Cairo. I think it's definitely. I think it's even in the mirror, but I think it's Jake sitting there. It may be Jake sitting there in Cairo, because all of a sudden he falls asleep, or Jake is the one that got them to Cairo, because all of a sudden he's done in London, and all of a sudden he wakes up in Cairo and his room is smashed and he's sitting there holding a bottle. How did he get there if it's not because Steven we see, and now we see he was Marc, and now we see Marc. How did he get to Cairo? So I know we're going out of order.
I guess I assumed he went as Marc, but you could be right. I think that's interesting you bring up about like who made the date with the girl, because you're right. If Marc is married, it wouldn't have been Marc. We were always thinking it was Marc, but
I don't think it was Marc.
No. So it must be the third personality. So that's going to be very confusing, isn't it?
Yeah. And people have you go ahead and have you go, and then we'll pull Kate in. So
okay. I'm still I pretty much agree with you, Derek. So far, Marc seems very standard Marvel character. I don't know if they're going to try to fix that, but he's like, he's basically the troubled loner who doesn't want to bring his wife into it, so he's stuck in a situation he doesn't want to be in. He's got this power, and so it's very, very Marvel-y superhero, and I've seen a lot of that. So the Steven character seems a lot more interesting to me. I do think we need to see a little more of Marc, but overall I hope they keep Steven as the primary personality for the show.
And Micah, I'm correct. That's different than the comics, because Marc is the primary in the comics.
He is. Yeah, and you actually saw there was a lot of spoilers in this one that if you didn't know about, that was setting up some of the origin story, the whole that Mark killed the archaeologists. That I think we'll get that more explained, but that's his origin story, and that's when he died. So yeah,
Okay.
but yeah.
And Kate, yes, Kate in the comics. And remember, and Khonshu said, I don't know if you heard me say this, Mark is dead. Mark died, and Khonshu brought him back to life. So, misconfused Kate, which character do you want to see more? And she's still muted, people. So, Kate's just having a great evening.
I had my answer to this, but there's been so much information that I've taken in the last 2 minutes that my brain is like, hang on. Definitely Steven. And this will hopefully make everybody laugh, but here is why. That man stood and had a conversation with the statue person. You know what I'm talking about? The guy in gold. Like, which, he didn't have anybody else really to talk about.
Mikey, you want to fill her in on who that really is?
Go ahead.
So, from the original comics, that's one of the informant characters. So Mark uses different personalities, and if you don't know, there's so many hidden things in this from the original story. That character and the Jake character are friends, and he is one of the informants. So he finds out information with it. I think they're bringing him in a different way, but he's a known character.
Okay. Micah, I just want to like sit and pick your brain on like all things comics. We're gonna have to talk after this because I'm fascinated. But from my super didn't know that point of view, resonate with Steven. I resonate with him. He goes and he talks to his goldfish, and he like has conversations with random people, and then he doesn't really talk to anybody, but he goes and he just like talks to the statue person, and he works at a gift shop at a museum, like, and they're like, what is this? And he's like, it's a paperweight. Where did you get it? The paperweight store. Like, I love Steven, and I think Mark is scary. And so I love Steven. My guess is we will see less and less of Steven, but I like him.
Okay. I think predictably Steve wants to see more of Steven. His perspective of what's going on is more intriguing. I agree. I would agree, Steven. Him figuring it out is interesting. Yeah, and as Nick says, of course he wants more Steven. Nick says his wife seemed unaware of Steven and the British accent as far as how many personalities and personas exist. I would be interesting when they go back and they do the origin story, because they're going to go back to the archaeological dig, because we've seen that in some of the trailers. At what point does the Steven character truly appear? I mean, and because I think, Mike, at this point, we're about to say, forget the comics.
Well, and we still have, if you know the story, there are so many hidden things in this one. It's kind of, I've found these like reading scripture that if you know some of the background, you're like, oh, that story means something totally different. And that's some of what's going on. So for some of us fanboys, we're like, oh, wow, we saw that detail. And most of you probably completely missed it.
Okay, so what's the detail?
Well, there are a bunch of them.
For what in the comics, what's the Steven origin story?
So the Steven origin story, well, in that it's in the comics, they kind of redid it, but originally he was one of many personas that Mark used just to get information. But as Marvel tried to shift him so that he wasn't as much of a Batman character, they developed him having multiple personalities. In this one, they talked about, and this was a line straight out of the comics, and I think it was said about Khonshu. Did Khonshu choose Mark because he was already broken, or did he know that he could break his mind? And that is straight out of the comics of, was he broken before the god brought this in, or was it Khonshu's influence that shattered his mind and then brought out these personalities? And I think that's going to be part of the conversation going forward. And yeah, we'll see Marc's history. And it might be interesting if they go back beyond the archaeological dig to like when he was a kid. Was he broken then?
Broken, yeah.
Yeah. Or is that the effect of a god? Yeah.
Another point thinking about it is like last episode, we assumed that the mom that Steven was calling was not a real person, right? And then in this episode, when Layla gets there, she's like, "Oh, you made up with your mom."
Yeah, you're talking to your mom again. Yeah,
you're talking to your mom again, and which you weren't. And it's like, oh, is so that even more says, did Marc create the mom character in
or did Jake?
Well, okay,
because I promise Jake is going to be showing up here, I think, in this next episode.
We can nickname Jake Bruno right now because we're not going to talk about Jake until Jake shows up. Because otherwise, Kate's going to get real confused.
Vicky says, "What happened to the original goldfish?" Well,
dead.
And well, but obviously it's dead. But why? And that's one of those. Would Marc have actually replaced the goldfish, or is that a Jake move?
Well, I don't know, but someone. So
the original goldfish died because remember they went into. She said he went back and said, "Why does this goldfish have two fins?" And makes the comment of, "No, so I guess goldfish. This isn't Finding Nemo."
Right. But so Steven had lost like 3 days. And so I'm assuming that during those 3 days, no one fed his goldfish. It died. And then Marc or whoever replaced the goldfish, hoping he wouldn't notice, but you replaced him with a fish with two fins. And because when you went in the pet store, she even said, "Oh, you were just here and you bought that fish." So, so clearly one of the other personalities came in and bought the fish to try to keep Steven in the dark, but it didn't work.
Yeah. Okay. So that was Moon Knight episode 2. As Micah said, episode 3 premieres later tonight, early tomorrow morning. Micah, would love to have you back for as many more of these as you can come back for, because I think it's really going to get interesting in a real big hurry, or it's going to get really, really, oh my gosh, this is just another Marvel series in a real big hurry.
And some of us won't mind that.
Yeah, true. So, okay. So thank you, Micah. We will drop you down. We'll see you at the end of the show. And for the second part of our show, guys, we had a Diamond in the Rough recommended. That was the National Geographic / BBC series Car S.O.S. And one of the people who recommended it was actually one of our youngest viewers. It was Glenn. And we've actually got Glenn on tonight. So Glenn, how you doing this evening?
I'm doing pretty good. You?
Doing very well. So you suggested Car S.O.S. for us. And for those of you who haven't seen it, Car S.O.S. is these two guys go around, they get these cars that are in trouble from people who have some kind of a backstory where they've fallen on hard times, and they go fix up their classic cars for them. Glenn, does that pretty much sum it up?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, Glenn, I'm going to start with you on this question. And I think I know how you're going to answer, but is Car S.O.S. the series a classic gem or a rust bucket?
I think it's kind of in the middle, but more on the classic side of it, like 60-40 classic rust bucket. I really liked it.
What'd you like about it?
Specific part was liked how they found a car that was very similar to the one they were fixing up and drove around in it so they knew what they need to fix and what it should feel like. I also liked the in-depth process of repairing a severely damaged car.
Okay. I definitely get that. For me, first thing I will say, I am not a car guy. I like the looks of old muscle cars, but I am not a car guy at all. I think if you are a true gearhead, this would be a great show. For me, I kind of liked it. There are, in the 10 seasons, 8 of which are on Disney Plus, they never repeat the same model of car twice. There are a lot of really cool cars that have been done over the seasons. For those of you who remember it, it reminds me a lot of the old Overhauling series on A&E that had Chip Foose on there, and that series talked more about keeping it a secret and playing tricks on them and focusing on the looks. This one actually talks about working on the actual car, which I found refreshing. The more I watched the show, the more I actually liked it. It's something I could watch while zoning out on a summer afternoon while not doing much, or trying to take a nap. Now, I mean that in a good way. Like you're focusing, you're enjoying watching it, and all of a sudden you find yourself asleep and you're nice and relaxed. We watched 2 episodes, specific episodes. We watched season 6, episode 2, and we watched season 8, episode 1. That first episode was admittedly a downer. Those of you who haven't watched it, the guy whose car it was had some major health complications and ended up passing away before they could get the car back to him. But I liked it. I didn't like the fact that he died, but I liked the episode. I will admit getting very emotional at the end of that one. Knowing people very close to me who have died before they were able to do the things they wanted and the dreams that they had hit close to home. And the fact he wasn't that much older than me. I think he was 46 or 47.
47.
47. So the other episode, a lot more straightforward, but to me, it worked also. So, Pete, what do you think of the show?
So, like you, Derek, I am not a car guy, but I have some car guy friends, and watching it, I was thinking, oh, I think they would really love this show because, they would love that concept of restoring old cars. I enjoyed it. I wouldn't, it's probably not a show that I would, I mean, there are shows like that, some reality shows, that I'll watch and put on, as you say, just like kind of like on in the background while you're doing other things or stuff like that. I don't know that I'd watch a bunch of episodes of this. I might watch some more. I enjoyed it. That first episode, and especially the 2 episodes you chose, it's like the first episode, the guy was sick and then he ends up passing away. And then the second episode, the guy's sick again. And I'm like, oh, please don't.
And most of them do have some kind of health issue, to be perfectly honest.
A lot of the episodes. Well, I figured a lot of them, obviously they can't do the restoration themselves. I did find as an engineer, I found the show fascinating that, I mean, these cars are long gone, right? In these 2 episodes. I don't know if they're all in such bad shape. I'm assuming a lot of them are.
Most of them are, yeah.
Yeah. And just that they could take what's essentially a husk of a car and restore it to its original, its original situation or its original shape, is very impressive. And as I said, it's a good show. I'm glad I watched it. I probably won't watch it a ton, but I would definitely recommend it to gearheads. That's for sure. Kate, what about you? Did you like it?
So I actually love shows like this. Or like, I guess I should say I really enjoy niche shows like this, like American Pickers and Storage Wars and those like pseudo reality focused on some sort of profession that I don't really know anything about, that's super eclectic, that I just find interesting. I actually really liked this show. I could see myself going. It's one of those shows that like you have on in the background that you're like half paying attention to while you're cleaning your room or while you're playing a game on your phone. And it's still interesting, but it's not one that like I have to sit and pay super attention to. So this is one that I feel like could be a background show for me that I would watch again. I don't know anything about cars. I envy people who know a lot about cars because I think that they are very interesting, how cars work and all that stuff. Watching the restoration side of it, fascinating. I love when people can make something old new again, and can the way that people think and how they redesign things. Yes, agreed that the 2 episodes that that were recommended, I did watch the first one and was like, oh, this is very sad. Oh. But I also love shows where people use their gifts to give back to people.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's obvious. If anyone knows anything about me, obviously I'm gonna like a show like that. So
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. I surprisingly enjoyed it.
Okay. And Steve says did not hate it and did not love it. Fascinating to see a British version of a makeover show, much more subdued than American versions. Totally agree. Compare this to Extreme Makeover Home Edition, for those of you who remember that show.
Yeah.
And how over the top that show was.
Yes.
Right.
This is much more my jam. This is much more my level.
I loved that show.
And yeah, it was. I mean, it's
probably buried somewhere on Disney Plus. It was an ABC show.
I think it is. But so, as we always do,
are you talking about?
We've got Pixie Dust. Oh, yeah. Nick, move that bus. Well, in this case, it's not. The bus would be what they're doing, or would be behind the.
That was Ty Peddington, and he was so good. Like, he was the most good-looking carpenter I've ever seen in my life. Hello, thank you.
Anyway,
and everyone froze. Everyone froze on my computer. I don't know if you guys actually froze
because none of us wanted to move. So
Ty Peddington, he was so funny. He's such a good carpenter.
Kate, I know you're not next to me right now, but I'm going to start with you, as we always do. Cups of Pixie Dust. Cups of Pixie Dust out of 5. How many are you giving it?
I'll give it a 3. I'll give it a 3. Okay. It was a solid have on in the background show.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I think for me 2.5.
Okay.
Same thing. Good show. It's not really my type of show, but I can see I can see certain types of people really enjoying it. So
okay, Glenn as our guest, give it Pixie Dust rating out of 5.
I'm gonna give it a 3.5.
Okay,
it was decent show, and I feel like they glossed over a lot of stuff that I would have liked to see more in detail.
Okay, now I think you did tell me though that in some of the earlier seasons, they go into a lot more in depth on some of the finding the parts and doing some of the actual repairs.
Restoration of the engine. They do a lot more in depth of that.
So I think that'd be interesting to see. For me, guys, you know how stingy I am with my ratings. It's a 3 for me. It's a good, solid.
Wow.
I will watch more of this show. This will be on in my house this summer when I'm just sitting around. There's nothing on TV. I can only watch so many reruns of different shows. I can only watch so many old sports shows and I don't want to watch Friends. So I'll watch this show. This will be on. Steve gives it 2.5. Nick gives it 2.5. Yeah, it's a nice middle of the road show. And Glenn, this was a very good suggestion. I will
definitely because I never would have watched.
I thought it was going to.
Sorry, I never would have. This isn't something I would have looked up, which is exactly what we want for the Diamonds in the Rough, is things that we wouldn't necessarily have chosen.
Yeah, definitely. And guys, that being said, please, if you are out there and you have shows that you really enjoy, please email us, plusplatoon@gmail.com. We need more shows like this to watch, because you guys have telling me through some of the different viewership I'm seeing, this is the kind of stuff you want to see on this show. You want to see us talking about series. You want to see us talking about movies. So we need suggestions from you. I'm going to bring Micah back in. And next week, obviously, we're doing Moon Knight episode 3, but we're also going to go from the vault. We're going to view Enchanted.
Ooh.
This has a sequel coming out this summer. I will be the first to admit, I've never seen it. I've never seen Enchanted.
Surprise.
There was a period there.
I don't think you're going to like it.
There was a period there where a lot of the live action shows were not very good. So it'd be real interesting to see what I think of this. I love the old princess movies. So we'll have to see. See, How Does She Know is one of those songs that will burn into your earworm, and I really don't. Looking forward to it. but we'll watch it and see how it goes. So, Kate?
Oh, I was going to say, I think it was Nick said earlier, I think I'm rolling back. Better Nate Than Ever is the show I was talking about at the very beginning. Better Nate Than Ever. That's
and we do have a couple people on the team going to watch that. And if it's worth it, we'll throw it in. And if we think it's worth watching, we'll throw it into the rotation. Because
did you watch it, Kate? Or you just heard about it?
I have not. No, I just keep seeing it pop up, and I'm like, oh, I need to watch. Every time I'm like, oh, I need to watch that, and then I go to something
because
else.
I will say we don't intentionally watch shows that we all think will be bad.
Right.
So, and there's a couple that we have looked at and gone, nope, we're not doing that one. So
that's not one of. This isn't one of them, though. This is one. This is one that we're kind of like.
We don't know.
Maybe. So if you've seen it, write to us down here.
Write to us, plusplatoon@gmail.com. Let us know if you like it. Let us know if you don't like it. Yeah. So that being said, Micah, Glenn, thank you so much for being here with us.
Thanks for having us.
Maybe they'll add Grogu to Moon Knight to spice it up.
Baby Moon Knight.
And Ryan says, can't wait for Sneakerella in a few weeks. Not sure about that one. So with that being said, Micah, would love to have you on as often as possible. Hope to see you next week. And we hope to see all the rest of you next week too. And with that, we will say goodnight, everyone. So
good night,
guys.
Thanks for watching this week's episode of the Plus Platoon. Be sure to subscribe to the Plus Platoon podcast to keep getting great content each week. Then head over to Apple Podcast and leave those 5-star reviews as they help make the Plus Platoon visible to even more Disney Plus fans. Also, go to YouTube and like and subscribe to the Plus Platoon channel, where you can watch all future episodes live. If you have a question for the Plus Platoon, please send us an email to plusplatoon@gmail.com or connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram @plusplatoon.
The Plus Platoon is a Disney Plus fan podcast and is not affiliated with the Walt Disney Company or the Disney Plus streaming service. All opinions expressed on the show are solely those of the individual hosts and in no way reflect the views of the Walt Disney Company.
Thanks for watching, and be sure to stay tuned for next week's episode because the Plus Platoon is to be continued.